Hello, this is Jed Morgan and welcome to the third in the series of WebExes for the installation of the IQ-PBX platform. And this is where we're going to start connecting to the system and begin basic settings and then move on to configure the system for the customer. So first of all, we need service laptop or service PC, and we're going to connect it through a switch that's going to have the IQ-PBX connected to it, so we can all talk on the same network, and including the SIP endpoints, etc. And so for that we need to configure our service PC and laptop to be on the same network as the IQ-PBX in default. So when a default system is powered up, the IP address of an IQ-PBX is 192.168.5.150. So 192.168.5.150 is the default IP address, and we need to set our service machine to be within the same range in order for us to connect in a default situation. So I'll just show you, if nobody's familiar with the setting up of your service laptop, and it depends on which operating system you have, but basically we're looking for the same kind of thing, the network connections. So we would go to Control Panel, Network Settings or Network and Sharing Center, change Adapter Settings, and we're looking for the local area connection because we're going to connect to the system through the Ethernet connection or the LAN connection, and we'll right click on this and select Properties, and then we're looking for the TCP/IP connection v4 in this case. Double click on that and then the box will open up ready for you to configure your service machine with an IP address that's relevant to the 5 network. So for example, we would use the following IP address, and for example we would be 192.168.200 for example, and the subnet mask is a corresponding subnet mask. Shouldn't need a default gateway, and we shouldn't need a DNS server. So you can OK, come out of those boxes, and then your laptop or your service machine will be ready to connect to the IQ-PBX system. Okay, so that's a little demonstration on changing your local area network setting. So once you've made the change and we're ready to connect to the system, you need to power up the IQ-PBX, wait a few minutes, and the run LED will flash steadily, which shows it's ready for connection. So what we would do then is we would open a browser, and in the address bar we would type http://192.168.5.150. so 192.168.5.150, and you'd be presented with this login screen. So what I want to point out here are the levels of access. So top level of access, the username would be service, the password is provider or lowercase, login, and you're logged in as a senior engineer where we can configure all the menus in the IQ-PBX. You can also log in as admin, as in the lower box here, admin, and the password is indeed password, all lowercase, log in, and that gives you admin access. And when you log in as admin, you will not have access to the full menus, SIP. Any SIP accounts or SIP registration details, they won't be available, as will a couple of other headings. So for a full access service engineer, we'd log on as service and provider in the first case. These would be subject to being changed when we look at security for the system. So that's administration, log on for service and admin. And once you're logged on, we can begin to look at the system settings and the basic settings for the system and little options we have. So on this slide here, our first priority is to set the LAN settings. So of course you'll either be given IP address range from the IT department or the IT personnel on site, or you can indeed create your own range. The second thing we do is set the time and date. It's important to set the time and date. And the third thing is password settings. We need to change passwords for system access, for extensions, and for voicemail. We must make the system secure. And the fourth thing, strangely enough, is system prompts. So any prompts that you have, whether they be music on hold that the customer's given you, they want to use these professional recordings, providing they're in a certain format, which we'll come to a little later. We can upload them into the system. So all these have to be prepared before we actually configure the system, so that when we come to set up the parameters for example, auto attendant or IVR or music on hold for certain things, they're already in the system for us, and it's simply a drop down box and select the required one. Whereas if you don't put them in at the beginning, you have to go and to record them and put them in then and add them, and we stick to the logical order. Okay, so that's a little example of the logical order we'll come to. So what we'll do is I'll come out of just the slideshow for a minute, and then it will go on to a live system. We'll go on to our system. We'll look at the login details here. So on this system, we can log in as service. If I can spell correctly, that'll be okay. Service, and insert our password, which I have changed, and log in. So when you're logged in, this is the first screen you were presented with, and this is the information screen. So the first screen you'll see is the information screen about the system. So the disk usage, the memory usage, what LAN details are already set in there, the software version. So that's an information screen. And the menus for all the things, all the configuration steps you want to carry out are down the left hand side of the screen. As you can see, they're all in their own separate headings. So basic, inbound call control, internal settings, network settings. So they're all in their own subheaders, and within those subheaders are the actual individual menu options. So we'll be referring to them backward and forward. And on the majority of these screens there is also a refresh icon here located at the top of the main box, and you'll use this periodically throughout the configuration. So as discussed, our first option was LAN settings. So what we do is we move down to the network settings, hover over the LAN settings, click, and our LAN box configurator comes up, and this is for the system itself. This is for the box itself. So first of all, again, down to the network information given by the IT department, whether it's required that the system's on DHCP or whether it's not. We can either have the system on DHCP or not have it on DHCP. The norm tends to be we don't have the system on DHCP. And SSH, so remote access for secure shell connection, we can enable it here and set whichever port you wish to use. In our case, we'll set it port 8022. So if you want to come in from the outside via a web access, we enable it to port 8022. Give your system a host name, whichever you like. It could be the site name, it could be your own domain, your own company, any company name, any name you like. It's not important. IP address. If you've been given an IP address range, then select an IP address for the system. The subnet mask, the gateway. So this would be the gateway out to the network. DNS server, if the one's used, you can enter the details in here. And once you've configured your LAN settings, press save. Don't worry about that warning. That's the password for secure shell. If you want to go log on to the system with secure shell, either by as I say, a browsing session or a PuTTY session, where we can look at the workings of the IQPBX in a diagnostics way via PuTTY. and just indicating the user and password there. So we'll just click OK if you get that message. Once you've changed your settings, always go up to the top here and apply changes. And in the beginning, you may be asked to do a reboot at certain places. A reboot may be required. Okay, so once we've set the LAN settings there, if a reboot is required, carry it out and let the system reboot, and then come back in and carry on with your configuration. Okay, the next setting we want to look at is the time and date. We'll click on the time and date and we set the time zone. Drop down options for the time zone, select the relevant one. Daylight saving time, you can enable or disable this, whichever you like, up to you. I'll set it to automatic, and we can either use an NTP server from the network. If we've got a route out to the internet, we can use an internet based time server, or we can indeed set the time and date manually. Check this box, just click into there and we can set the time and date manually, but in our case I'll simply use an external time server. Save the changes, apply settings, apply changes. Again, it's asking for a reboot. Okay, so you can do a reboot. System comes back with the correct time and date, and we're ready to move on to the next step, which is indeed password settings. So click on password settings. So here, as you can see, we can change the service password and we can change the admin password, so that's a bit self-explanatory really. Make them secure passwords. They can be a mixture of characters, numbers, capitals and lowercase. Save and apply changes, and when you apply changes, this writes it into the system fully. Okay, password changes completed. Our next section in logical order for setup would be prompts, custom prompts, music on hold prompts. So for this there are two places. Custom prompts are where we set up the greetings for the auto attendant, etc. Custom prompts, and there is also down here in internal settings music on hold prompts. So if we were to look at custom prompts first, these would be your greetings for your auto attendant, etc. Click on custom prompts and we have 3 default entries. So for example, if you enter the wrong PIN number, you get a prompt. If you make an error, and a default prompt. There's a default prompt in there. This is one that I've inserted, an auto attendant for day, and the way to record a prompt or upload a prompt are in the selectable boxes at the top here. So always look for selectable boxes at the top of the main boxes in any of the menus, and also our old friend the refresh icon is there to refresh the screen. So to record a new prompt, simply click on the record. We can give it a file name, for example would be AA night, and all we do here is we select the extension that is going to ring for us to record the prompt on. So select your extension there and click record, and the extension will start to ring. You lift the receiver and you'll be prompted to record, and press the hash key when you are finished, and that will be that prompt recorded. And once it is recorded, you'll come back to this screen here and there won't be any change. But if you go to the refresh icon, click on refresh, the screen goes off, refreshes, and your new greeting is there ready for you to insert. So again, have all your greetings ready to record, or someone to record them for you, and then upload them ready to use later on. You can upload a prompt if you've got one pre-recorded by some professional person. Please note though, The format must be in this configuration here. It must be GSM 6.10 8 kHz mono, 1 kilobyte per second. The file size can be no larger than 1.8 meg. So you've got this file stored on your PC. You can browse, click on browse, find the file on your desktop, wherever the file may be. Click on open. It will load the file into here for you, into this box. Click on upload, and that's uploaded to the system. And again, if you just go to the base screen here for the prompts, custom prompts, click on refresh, the screen will refresh and your uploaded prompt will be there. Okay, so that's prompts, recording them and uploading a pre-recorded prompt in the correct format. Moving on to music on hold prompts. If we click on music on hold prompts in the menu down the left hand side, music on hold prompts page pops up, and there are our 3 default ones already in there. You can play them, see which one the customer likes the best. If you click on play, select an extension to play the music on hold for you, click on play, the phone will start to ring, you lift the receiver and the tune will be played. So each of those is perfectly acceptable. However, if we want to upload our own music on hold prompt, we go to the selectable box at the top, upload music on hold prompt. Again, the WAV format is exactly the same. We browse to the music on hold file as we did with the custom prompts, open, and the file pops into the box here, and then you click on upload. It uploads the file to the system, and then click on refresh the page, and your new recording music on hold prompt will appear here. Apply changes, and that will be written to the system. If you go through a few screens and you didn't hit the apply changes, as long as you do hit the apply changes before you finish your configuration, it will write it to the system. So you can do a few screens if you like, and then hit apply changes and it will go in. I tend to try and do it after every screen, so I know that I've written that information into the screen. Okay, so that's music on hold prompts. They're all recorded, all in, ready. And once they're done, we can move on to the system options. Is the next item on our agenda in the logical order. Internal settings, options, and this is where we've got some basic system options. I'm going to go through these, and I'm going to end this WebEx here, and we'll carry on with further configuration in the next one. So on this final screen we're going to look at in this WebEx is ring timeout. We have options here. These are system-wide options, and if at any time during these programming configuration, etc., you're wondering what, or you're not sure what one of the menus means or what it's about, you can hover over the instructional little blue eye icon, and a sentence or two will pop up in a box explaining what that option is actually for and how it will help and what it does. Okay, so you can hover over any of these at any programming steps in the configuration, providing they're there, and you'll get an indication as to what they actually mean. So ring out time. Number of seconds to ring a device before executing the follow me configuration. So this is 180 seconds before it will look at the follow me or call forwarding for that action or incident or extension that's ringing. It will look at the follow me after that time period. Maximum call duration. This is exactly what it sounds like. Any call will last 6,000 seconds, and then the call will be disconnected. 6,000 seconds is an awful long time. If you want to set it to 0, it will mean there is no defined timeout. You can speak as long as you like. Maximum number of concurrent calls. You may not want to change this. We tend not to change this. If you set it to leave it at 0, there's no limit. Music on hold. For the system, the current version, we're going to use the Calm River in default, However, if you'd pre-recorded one, it would be here in the options as we chatted about a little earlier. Music on hold prompts. It would be there, selectable for you to choose. The tone region, we're in the United Kingdom. HTTP bind port. If you wanted to come in via a web browser, a HTTP address, you'd be bound to port 80. FXO mode, our analog trunk mode, is the UK, so this would be basically set up for us in the UK for analog trunks. Virtual ringback tone, it's when you use GSM gateways, the system will generate a ringback tone, so the caller doesn't hear silence, they actually hear some kind of ringing when they call into the system. Distinctive caller ID. When the call is routed from a ring group, queue or an IVR, the caller ID would display where it comes from. So this would be useful when you select an option in auto attendant and it goes through to a phone, the caller ID will be passed through. Little things for follow me prompt, invalid phone number prompt, busy line prompt, dial failure prompt, self-explanatory really. So a series of little system options that we can select and change and choose from. And extension preferences, this is where we actually configure our number range. So this is a logical step for us to take, and it's in the correct order, where we now configure our extension range. We configure our ring group numbers, paging group numbers, conference rooms, IVRs, auto attendants, and queues. So we have a predefined ranges for each of those headings, and they are flexible. We can change them to suit the customer's needs or whatever we require. Click on save, apply changes, and this writes it to the system. Okay, so I'm going to end that WebEx there. No real troubleshooting to carry out on this section, on this WebEx, as it's all pretty self-explanatory. So in the next WebEx, we'll look at carrying on with configuration. Okay, many thanks. I'll speak to you soon.